What's up guys, JV2017 here, and I am bringing you a new Fallout 4 tips and tricks video, and we are continuing my character build series with a WWE wrestler and recent internet meme sensation. Just a quick reminder guys, this is your hub for daily Fallout 4 content here on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned on my channel for daily Fallout 4 tips and tricks videos. Today I'm going to show you how to make a John Cena character build, which is something a lot of people have asked for on my channel for a while now. And the focus is going to be on using Unarmed to pummel our enemies into submission like, John Cena would. And let me be the first to say that one, my character creation here looks nothing like John Cena. I'm sure people could do a lot better than I did here. And two, I know nothing about WWE or wrestling, so please excuse my ignorance for not making a bunch of wrestling references throughout the video. Now before we begin, I want to point out that this is my interpretation of a John Cena build. I'm sure there are plenty of other ideas out there, so if you'd like to share your version of this character, feel free to do so in the comments below. I tried to strike a balance between being true to John Cena, but also making this build viable, fun, and interesting to play in the game, and I had a lot of fun playing with this build. I hope you guys will as well. The three traits or defining characteristics that I use to make my Cena build are first that he is a wrestler, of course, so that's how he's going to attack enemies. That plays a big role in what perks we're picking. Of course, he's strong. He's incredibly buff. That's a big thing about John Cena. So obviously, you're going to want to max out your muscular kind of meter on your John Cena character. And finally, he's tough. He can take a lot of hits. And so that's also something I want to incorporate in this build because we're actually not going for sneak. That's something I'm going to talk about throughout this video. There's no sneak in this melee build, so it makes it a little bit tough, especially since we're unarmed. Our special stats for John Cena are 9 strength, 2 perception, 3 endurance, 1 charisma, 1 intelligence, 9 agility, and then 5 luck. That is a 30-point build, so that includes the 1 perception bobblehead at the very start of the game and an extra point in any category that you choose from the special book in the Soul Survivor's house. And the plan with this special spread is to grab our signature perks first, the things that allow us to do damage, and then our second priority would be on our survivability perks because this really is a risk-reward kind of build. Since we're not going into sneak, we will need some survivability in there. And then finally, luck. Luck is just great for any build when you're dealing damage, so that'll be kind of the third priority and what you'll go with next. The signature perks for our John Cena build are Iron Fist, Rooted, Blitz, Life Giver, and then Idiot Savant. And we're going to take a look at each of these perks in the perk chart right now, one by one. The first and most important signature perk for this build is going to be Iron Fist because, of course, John Cena is a wrestler. He's going to be using his hands, his fists, in order to deal damage. So with each rank of Iron Fist, you're going to get 20% more damage per rank with your punching attacks. So this is actually, designating certain weapons as unarmed weapons and also just your fist. So we're going to talk about which weapons you can use and still benefit from Iron Fist in a little bit in this video. So of course, like I said, more damage with each rank, and then you'll get some extra perks. So rank 2, you can disarm your opponent with rank 2, and then you get a chance to cripple limbs with rank 3 and bonus damage, an extra chance to cripple limbs, bonus damage with rank 4, and then finally at level 46, rank 5 gives you Paralyzing Palm, which returns from previous Fallout games. It's kind of wrapped underneath this Iron Fist perk, which really makes sense, and it's super duper powerful. I think that's why it's all the way up at level 46. It guarantees that criticals and VATs with unarmed attacks will paralyze your opponent. That is so good, and that's going to be really good for you guys that take this John Cena build, way into the upper levels. Level 46 is quite a long ways away, so that's going to be really good for some of you guys that really take this build seriously. Next, all the way down here is Rooted. This is an important, of course, perk for this build because we're dealing more damage while standing still, and really the idea here is to charge in to attack our enemies, within unarmed range, and then standing still is something you should naturally do next. You don't really need to move once you're within unarmed distance. So you're going to get that bonus when you're not moving, and also you'll get some extra resistances. So with each rank, you're going to get more, and then finally the third rank, you may automatically disarm enemies that use melee weapons against you when you're standing still, which is crazy. It's interesting in this game when you are able to disarm enemies with their melee weapons, they try to punch you, and it's not nearly as effective as their melee weapon. So that's going to be really helpful for this build. Next, we're looking at Blitz. I don't think there's, a feasible melee / unarmed build in this game that doesn't have Blitz in it. It increases your VAT's melee distance significantly. And then rank 2 is absolutely ridiculous. It's just insane. Some of you guys have been watching my stream lately with my melee character. It is incredibly good. So Blitz allows you to, VATS from very long distances. You can VATS around corners if you're in third person, and that's just a really fun way to play the game. And I think, again, it's just necessary for a melee / unarmed build. Next is Life Giver, way up here, and honestly, this is one of those survivability perks that I think, you should probably just go ahead and get. It doesn't matter which level you're on or, difficulty you're on. You may be on easy and it might not be good for you, but for normal, this is still going to help you out. And I think this is better than toughness. I'll talk about toughness in a second with our extra perks, but I think Life Giver, I just like having more health. And with each rank, you're going to get a little bit more health, and then you'll slowly regenerate lost health with Life Giver rank 3, which you'll get at level 20, which is not very far away. So Life Giver is just some extra damage mitigation that I think is useful and helpful for this build, because again, we're not going for sneak. If we had sneak, I probably wouldn't say take Life Giver, but this is just going to guarantee you some more survivability. Finally, something I always recommend in all of my, low intelligence builds, which we're going low intelligence here, is Idiot Savant. It's that XP, man. If you just go for Idiot Savant, you're going to get an average of more XP just over the lifespan of your character. And if you're going for low intelligence, it is a no-brainer to take Idiot Savant. So that's actually the first perk I recommend that you take in this build and every build, that has low intelligence. So you go ahead and maximize that XP and get to your perks sooner. Now let's talk about some additional perk options that you should consider with your John Cena character. These are not signature perks, but you're going to be taking more than just 5 perks within the game. So these are some good options with this build. First off is armor. Obviously, you want increased mitigation of damage with an unarmed character. So, with each rank, you're going to get an extra rank of armor mods available at an armor workbench. So this is going to help you with your armor and, survivability, basically. So armor is something you should definitely think about. Toughness is another damage mitigation perk, and I would just go into this if you can't get Life Giver right now and you're having trouble, surviving. That's the only reason I would take toughness. Honestly, it's not a very good perk, and I don't know. I might not even take it if I were you, unless you are on higher difficulties and you're having trouble surviving. So that's an additional perk that may help you out. Next, all the way down at Agility 5 is Action Boy, and this regenerates action points. This is super helpful when you're fighting a lot of enemies at once, which will be troublesome for an unarmed character, especially if they are armed. If they're using guns, say you run into the Gunner's, Plaza, for example, which is where I am in this video, you're gonna get blown up, especially if you don't have the action points, to kind of deal with that situation. So this is going to help you out, and each rank is going to give you more regeneration of your action points more quickly, that is. So next, Moving Target. This perk is only useful, in my opinion, for a melee / unarmed build. You get increased resistances while you're sprinting. So for example, if you're sprinting up to your enemies, maybe you've already blitzed and you can't, blitz again or whatever, maybe you don't have any AP or whatnot, this is going to help you out. You're going to have some extra resistance while you're sprinting. Maybe you just want to sprint away from enemies. You want to run away. You're getting shot at by super mutants. You're, overrun. You need to run away. This will help with your, last second survival. And each rank as you go up, you'll get more resistance. And then finally, at their last rank, sprinting costs 50% less or fewer action points, which is pretty helpful as well. So Moving Target is something you should definitely think about. Bloody Mess is something I recommend in almost every single build. It's just helpful in combat. You get that flat damage bonus. So with each of the first 3 ranks, you get 5% more damage in combat. And the final one, I don't know. I'm not even sure if the final rank works. So I'm not sure I would go into that at level 47. But Bloody Mess, the first 3 ranks are definitely great to have. Of course, like I always do, we're going to go down the last 4 luck perks here. They are just so good and they synergize so well together. So better criticals, of course, increases your critical damage. You get 50% more with the first rank, and then twice as much, and then 2.5 times with your criticals. Honestly, guys, once you get your hands on a nice weapon with this build, or a nice unarmed weapon, this is going to help, but you're probably already going to be one-shotting people with your criticals. So better criticals is going to help you even more. It's going to help you with those behemoths, so those very hard, sentry bots, very hard enemies to take down. Better criticals will be your best friend. Critical Banker, of course, just helps you even more. You can bank those criticals and save them, which with each rank, you can save even more. And, Critical Banker just synergizes with the rest of these. Grim Reaper Sprint gives you the chance to restore all of your action points. It's pretty low, but any kill and VATS gives you that chance all the way up to 35%, and also a chance to refill your critical meter with Grim Reaper Sprint with the last rank. Again, we're just synergizing with these luck perks. Finally, 4-leaf clover. Each hit in VATS has a chance of filling your critical meter. That is also incredibly good, and you have the highest chance at the highest rank of 4-leaf clover, which is a pretty high level perk. Let's see what it is. Level 48, high level rank. So, you know, you may get to this, you may not, but 4-leaf clover is incredibly good, again, for any build. I totally recommend it here as well. And then finally, ricochet is something you also want to think about. If you want to go all the way to luck 10, which will take you a while, we didn't really increase luck a lot with our special in the beginning of the game. That wasn't really the focus for me, but again, I just think that working into luck, you know, into the end game, or, you know, mid game at least, is really powerful for your character. It'll help you with those more difficult enemies, especially on higher difficulties. So ricochet is a fun little perk you might want to think about, because you're gonna get shot up. You know, you are a, you know, unarmed character, so that's something that's going to help you as well. Now let's take a look at the perk roadmap, which is pretty much my term for which perks you'll be taking at the starting level. So just the first 10 levels in the game. Not trying to micromanage this build too much, but this is a very good starting point to flesh out your John Cena. At level 2, I would take Idiot Savant. This is just something that I do with every build that is low intelligence. This is just about maximizing your experience as soon as possible, so that's why I would take that first. Next is Iron Fist. This is the first priority for dealing damage with our character. Of course, we are John Cena, we are a wrestler, we are a brawler, so Iron Fist is going to help us with our unarmed damage. That's really important. At level 4, you should take Blitz, because of course we want to be able to handle enemies that are at a longer range, and this gives us more melee distance within VATS. You know, you pretty much teleport towards your enemies. It's a fantastic perk for a melee / unarmed build, so it's perfect for our John Cena. At level 5, I would take Rooted. When you're standing still, you deal more damage, have more resistances, and again, this is just about dealing more damage with our character, putting our enemies down quicker. That's super important for me, at least in my builds, so that's why I would take Rooted at level 5. Next, I would take Life Giver at level 6. Again, we did take 3 Endurance for a little more survivability, and also just to get us to this Life Giver perk. So this is something I would take, you know, no matter what mode you're on, unless you're on easy. It's still going to help you out on normal, and it's definitely going to be very helpful on higher difficulty modes. Next, I would take Action Boy. This is an agility based perk giving you more action points. This is going to be helpful when you're facing more enemies in any situation. So Action Boy is helpful in the early game. Bloody Mess is going to give you that extra damage. So at level 8, that's what I would take. Just a general, you know, flat bonus of 5% is helpful in the early game as well. Level 9 is the first point where we can take rank 2 of Iron Fist, so that is an absolute necessity. At level 9, you need to take Iron Fist to get your damage up to 40% more with, you know, unarmed. And finally, I would take Moving Target at level 10. This is just an extra perk to help when you're running, you know, dodging bullets from enemies. This is going to give you that extra damage resistance and energy resistance, so that'll be helpful for John Cena as well. The playstyle approach to combat that we're going to be taking with John Cena is to use Blitz, of course, very important perk for this build, to charge in and just beat down our characters. And it's really awesome because there are certain unarmed animations when you get a critical or you kill an enemy where they look like body slams. They look like some really cool wrestling moves that John Cena would actually use. So it's really cool to see your really buff character that kind of looks like John Cena. Maybe you're really good with the character creation and he looks just like him. That would be awesome. You know, beating down enemies and throwing them to the ground, you can do that with this build, and it's really, really fun. The challenge, however, and you will feel this even more on like survival, for example, is that we're not going with sneak. So when you're facing like 6 enemies all with guns, that's going to be really hard for John Cena. And so having a lot of action points, being able to run in there, beat them down, kill them quickly is what we're kind of relying on with this build. So we have very limited weapon options in this game. There's pretty much, I would say, 5 weapon types or, you know, unarmed types that you can even use to, you know, benefit Iron Fist. Those are, of course, just being unarmed completely, just using your fist. That benefits from Iron Fist, or, you know, receives a benefit from that perk. There's the Boxing Glove, which isn't great. The Deathclaw Gauntlet, which is pretty good. Knuckles, which is something you can find early in the game. Pretty much in Conquered, I think you'll always find some Knuckles. They're not very good, but they are okay for the early game. Then finally, a Power Fist. I think this is really what you want to shoot for with this build in terms of weapons. And speaking of which, some of these signature weapons that are out there that you can get, there's only 2 options that I would really recommend. First is the Deathclaw Gauntlet. This is something that you can get by visiting the Museum of Witchcraft, taking that pristine Deathclaw egg, back to the, I believe, the nest for the Deathclaw, and then there will be a gauntlet just sitting there for you, or you could try to kill Swan. This is very difficult. I did it with my John Cena character, so I'm using the Furious Power Fist in my gameplay. However, this is going to be very difficult, I promise. So the Deathclaw Gauntlet, you can mod it for an extra claw for more damage, and that's a pretty good option, and you know, not too difficult to get. I guess you could pop out a gun and kill the Deathclaw and get it that way. Same with Swan with the Furious Power Fist if you really wanted to do that, and then you can really kind of actually be able to hold your own with this John Cena build without using, you know, knuckles or your bare fists. So the Furious Power Fist has the Furious modifier on it, which increases damage after each consecutive hit on the same target, which is perfect, right? You know, you're running up at enemies, maybe you're on a higher difficulty, you know, at some point, like I've said before with this build, you are going to be dealing so much damage that you're going to one or two shot a lot of enemies. But with the Furious Power Fist, say you're on survival, it takes like 5, you know, blows to the body with John Cena, or to the face, that is, you know, to kill an enemy. Each consecutive shot is going to give you more damage, which is just really cool. It lends itself really well to this build, and I really like the idea of that. That's why I was using it, and you're seeing it in action in this gameplay. On a brief additional note, the Grognat costume is the perfect armor for this build. It's going to give you those extra points in strength, and it's also going to give you some extra damage resistance, and it looks perfect because it shows off John Cena's muscles. That's probably an important thing for a lot of you guys, I'm sure. So anyways, definitely go and get the Grognat costume as soon as you can. I'm using it in this gameplay. Here are a few companion recommendations for this build, some things that go nicely with it, or, you know, just some silly things as well. So first is Preston Garby. This is something I recommend with every build. You get plus 20% damage and plus 20 damage resistance when you're fighting 3 or more enemies. This is going to be nice for John Cena, because if you fight 3 or more enemies, you're going to need the more damage, and you're going to need the damage resistance. So Preston, probably one of the best options for John Cena. Paladin Dance is another option, plus 20% damage against ghouls, mutants, and synths across the board. That, you know, accounts for a lot of the enemies that you're going to be fighting. So Paladin Dance is something I usually recommend with most builds. He definitely is recommended with John Cena as well. Curie will heal 100 health once per day when you're below 10% health. That is just, you know, a safety valve kind of thing, a plan B, a plan C that will save your life if you take Curie along with you. Finally, you could take Strong along with you. I'm not sure that that's a great option. I'm not a big fan of pairing 2 melee / unarmed characters together, but his affinity perk is when you're below 25% health, you deal plus 20% melee damage. I don't know if that also means unarmed damage. I'm not really sure, but even if it did, I would still not recommend Strong, honestly. But I think it's just silly to see Strong and, you know, John Cena with no shirt on running around. That's just a funny thought, so that's also something you might want to think about. So I'd like to know, after watching this video, will you play a John Cena build? Does this look like something that's fun to you? Honestly, this is one of the most fun builds that I've played with so far, because we didn't take Sneak. And honestly, Sneak would make this more like a Sneak melee character, just with unarmed. I didn't do that with this build. I wanted to make it unique and not take Sneak. So it's really kind of fun to play a real brawler and see these awesome animations that look like wrestling moves. It's almost perfect. Also, what kind of changes would you make to this build? Would you give yourself some more survivability on, you know, higher game modes, or would you go for Sneak? Would you go for a sneaky John Cena? Of course, that's an option as well. Also, suggest a new character for me to cover in a future character build guide video. Share all of that below. Alright guys, today I showed you how to make a John Cena character build in Fallout 4, and next time we will cover more Fallout on my channel, so stay tuned for daily Fallout 4 tips and tricks videos, and remember that this is your hub for daily Fallout 4 content on YouTube. If you learned something new, remember to hit that like button, I would really appreciate it, and don't forget to subscribe for more unique weapon guides, build guides, and general tips and tricks videos. Talk to you guys next time, peace!